This alien smouldering world is near Muragira in Zaire, in the Great Rift Valley of Africa. A basalt volcano soaring 3,000 meters, nearly 2 miles high. Every 2 or 3 years, it erupts. Lava spurts to a height of 200 meters, more than 650 feet. The fast-moving lava flow can stretch for up to 20 kilometers or 12 miles. Close by is another famous volcano near Gongo. It's 400 meters, 1,300 feet higher than near Muragira. It's one of the 4 volcanoes in the world to have a permanent lake of lava, an open-air reservoir of magma. It has a turbulent history. In June 1973, Katja and Maurice Kraft and their team descended for the first time into Nyiragongo's crater at a depth of 200 meters or 650 feet. An enormous lake of lava boiled at the bottom, one of nature's most beautiful sights, the birth of the world before their eyes. The lake is 400 meters long and 150 meters wide, 1,300 feet by 500. Its temperature is 1,100 degrees centigrade. The column of magma trapped in Nyiragongo's cone towers over the plain and villages below like a terrifying sword of Damocles. Over the years, the level of the lake continually rises. Suddenly, on January the 10th, 1977, the crater empties like a bathtub being unplugged. The volcano gives way under the huge pressure. A fissure, 8 kilometers or 5 miles long, cut the cone in two. Immediately, the molten lava spurted from it, especially to the south. A molten tidal wave engulfed the villages and their inhabitants. The lava moved at 60 kilometers or 40 miles an hour, one of the fastest flows ever observed. It headed straight towards the town of Goma, but stopped just before the airport. The eruption lasted for just 1 hour. About 60 people died, trapped by the molten lava. An incredible sight. An elephant, surprised by the eruption, was engulfed by the devastating flow. Its form is perfectly molded by the lava. Its body, feet, head, and even the trunk. A lunar landscape. In the middle of the crater is a lake where black lava bubbles. This is the first time an eruption at Longai has been filmed. It's really molten rock. It lights up the night. When the crater is too full of lava and the column of magma is too heavy, then it all collapses. The magma disappears into the depths and the volcano explodes. Fortunately, these eruptions don't threaten many people. The area around here is a desert. However, one day the Longai will stop erupting and will perhaps form a crater lake. But how does a crater lake appear? Deep inside the mouth of a volcano, it's often rich in volcanic fumes. These acidic gases alter the rocks, transforming them slowly into impermeable clay. In the end, the clay covers the whole floor of the crater. Erosion sometimes creates strange shapes like these fairy chimneys. Rainwater can then accumulate in these large impermeable containers. The crater lakes are formed. These crater lakes are often peaceful, but their depths contain hidden secrets. Nios in the Cameroons is a terrible example. Over hundreds of years, huge quantities of carbon dioxide originating from the magma accumulated at the bottom of the lake. Then suddenly, on August the 21st, 1986, after a strange disturbance, the carbon dioxide burst to the surface. Heavier than air, it first filled the crater, then overflowed and ran into the valley at 60 kilometers or 40 miles an hour. More than 1,700 people were killed by the deadly gas. What can be done to prevent a repetition of the disaster? All the gas that remains at the bottom could be extracted by a pumping station installed in the middle of the lake, but that would prove very expensive. The level of the lake could be reduced sufficiently by means of a system of canals so that the gas can no longer accumulate, but that technique could lead to another explosion as violent as that in 1986. The most reasonable solution would be to install automatic gas detectors, as is done in Japan. As soon as gas is detected, a siren sounds. Some crater lakes turn into acid lakes. Sulfuric gases bubble through the rainwater of the lake and turn it into acid. This volcano in Japan contains a lake of sulfuric acid. A river of acid flows from it. It's too corrosive to be used for agriculture or industry. To make it harmless, a factory pumps lime into the river to neutralize its acidity. But the most fantastic and strangest acid lake in the world is Kawahigani in the east of Java. It's a surrealist landscape. The largest reservoir of acid in the world, 36 million cubic meters of acid, surrounded by piles of sulfur. Sulfur, 30,000 tons of it. It's quarried by the Indonesians who use it to refine sugar. This lake contains an absolute fortune. In its waters are 1 million tons of aluminium sulfate, 600,000 tons of hydrochloric acid, 500,000 tons of sulfuric acid. So, what better thing to do than go for a sail? This is the first time it has been attempted. This bottle, which can open at both ends, allows samples of acid to be taken from different depths of the lake. A lead weight runs along a length of steel line, so it can be closed. A winch drops it down at the end of a cable 400 meters or 1,300 feet long. Here's the proof that it's acid. A piece of limestone dissolves when dipped into the lake. The rubber dinghy seems watertight. It was bought cheaply in a local flea market. It could be expensive to use a new dinghy on this devil's brew. The bottle goes down into the lake. The weight is released and closes the bottle at the desired depth. The sample is taken. The suits are resistant to acid, but at first the hands are not so well protected. The steel line didn't survive long in this corrosive liquid. The bottle stays at the bottom of the lake, 350 meters or 1,100 feet below the surface. It is steaming acid at a temperature of 34 degrees centigrade. And if the dinghy springs a leak, the passengers will be dissolved.
Arrivé, tu peux y aller. Ok, je pars. Aval. Aval. Égalise à jaune. Attention, Pierre. Pas de mal? Ça va?
This is Hogar, on the prism-shaped dome of Lihari, to the north of Tamanrasset. A volcanologist must often be a mountaineer as well, even if he's only studying the structure of volcanic peaks. What are the scientists looking for? A composite of multicolored crystals coming from the very bowels of the Earth. A magical, unsuspecting world that will allow us just to give a scientific name to its rock. Two months of exploration, 50 peaks climbed and sampled. Enough information has been collected for a reconstruction of the geological history of the volcano. The quest continued, this time in the Great Rift Valley of East Africa, with volcanoes everywhere.
Kilimanjaro, 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 Kilimanjaro.
On this African soil, tribute had to be paid to the famous and revered Kilimanjaro. The last 6 hours are hard, particularly for those who suffer from altitude sickness. It's 5,600 meters high, 3.5 miles, and the temperature is minus 10 degrees centigrade. But when Katia Kraft reaches the summit, their efforts are rewarded. These are the snows of Kilimanjaro. The Kilimanjaro crater. Its last eruption was only a few centuries ago. The ground is still warm enough to melt the snow. One day, the summit of Africa will reawaken. Maurice and Katia Kraft's obsession knew no bounds. Their horizons were endless. They went one more time to Nyiragongo in Zaire to satisfy their thirst for knowledge. It's a legendary circular world. At the center, the hellish mouth with 180 meters, 600 feet of cliff to descend to reach the floor of the crater. A week of camping on the lid of an enormous pressure cooker. The lava lake is there, close by, boiling at 1,100 degrees centigrade. A vast open-air reservoir of magma, a colossal source of energy, a natural phenomenon. But the African volcanoes are not the only great spectacle. Hawaii is greater still and surpasses human understanding. Intoxicated with fire, fascinated by the floods of lava, attracted by the inferno, Maurice Kraft fulfilled his human role and discovered himself in the face of the great fury of the planet Earth. The study of volcanoes began in 79 AD when Pliny the Younger described the eruption of Vesuvius, which wiped out the cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum. Volcanology has made major progress with the introduction of specialized observatories, of which there are about 30 worldwide. The most famous one is in Hawaii, founded in 1912 by Thomas Yager, and it's here where most of the techniques in forecasting eruptions have been perfected. It's also where Yager attempted to divert lava flows. In 1935 and 1942, when lava from Mauna Loa threatened the town of Hilo, Yager arranged for the American Air Force to divert the flow by dropping bombs on it. This had never been attempted before. For a different reason, during the Second World War, a superfortress bomber dropped 2 bombs into Vesuvius's crater in 1943. The Allies hoped they might awaken the volcano to cause panic amongst the Italian and German troops. The floor of the crater cracked, releasing a small flow of lava. This is the only time man has created an eruption. In 1960, in Hawaii, the volcano Kilauea erupted just behind the village of Kapoho. The lava flowed along a valley towards the sea, but several days later it turned south, where houses were situated. It was time to evacuate the area. People took orchids and other plants which could be grown elsewhere. Dozens of houses were hurriedly evacuated because the lava was approaching at speed. Dozens of bulldozers tried to hold back the lava to prevent it flowing south. In the space of 10 days, a series of dams totaling 4,500 meters, 2.5 miles in length, was constructed. At first, the lava stopped, but success was short-lived. Some days later, the flow surmounted the obstacle and engulfed the dams and headed towards Kapoho. With energy born from despair, the firemen tried not to put out the fire, but to cool the lava just behind the houses to check the flow. The attempt did not work. Kapoho disappeared from the map. In 1983, Kilauea erupted again, this time further west, near to Kalapana. The roads were made impassable by the lava, their surfaces set on fire. Once again, firemen tried to stop the lava flow, but again, they could not spread enough water to succeed. We are looking at the slow death of Bob Paolucci's home. First, the lava covers his papaya plantation, but misses his house. On the second day, it changes direction and begins surrounding his home. Paolucci grabs his hose and spends every hour for 3 whole days pouring water on the lava to cool it down, to solidify it, so it can't spread any further. He manages to hold back the lava flow, giving himself time to save some of his belongings. But the struggle is one-sided. On the 4th day, worn out, he gives up. Several hours later, the molten rock reaches the wooden pillars of his home and engulfs them in flames. Next morning, only a few sheets of metal show where his house had stood. His property is concreted over with lava. He has lost everything, and it will take a long time for the soil to become fertile again. On the island of Jaime, south of Iceland, on the 23rd of January 1973, a volcanic crack opened 150 meters or 500 feet away from the town of Vasmanyi. In the middle of the night, without the slightest panic, all 5,000 inhabitants were evacuated. The town became a Nordic Pompeii. Even the cemetery was buried. Soon after, the huge lava flow poured out of the crater. It destroyed dozens of houses and flowed towards the harbor. When they saw the size of the catastrophe, 300 houses already destroyed, the Icelanders decided to intervene, to cool the leading edge of the flow by pouring on seawater. It was vital that the most important fishing port in Iceland was not inundated by lava. They arranged for enormous lengths of plastic pipe to be sent from the United States. They constructed pipelines between the sea and the lava flow. The pipelines crisscrossed over the roads, looking like a giant spider's web. At the same time, 47 enormous pumps from the American Navy were installed in the port. So started the most amazing attempt to divert the lava flow. The Icelanders pumped 4,500 tons of seawater an hour onto the flow, solidifying 20,000 cubic meters of lava every hour. For 3 weeks, the work continued round the clock. The operation was a success. Dozens of houses were saved as the lava was prevented from overwhelming the port. Since then, hundreds of lava flows have rushed down the sides of Etna. Even in such scenes of desolation, guides profit by making ashtrays out of lava and then selling them to tourists. But Etna is far from being always quiet. On the 28th of March 1983, a huge amount of lava flowed down the southern side of the volcano and spread into inhabited areas. In the holiday camp of Don Bosco, a stone building was crushed in 20 minutes. The devastated orchards became worthless. Even the patron saint, St. Alfio, was powerless. The lava consumed everything. Government ministers were present, as well as 200 journalists from all around the world. They waited for the big event. Mount Etna was to be blown up to prevent any further destruction. It was to be an event that nobody wanted to miss. At Kelad in Indonesia in 1919, 40 million cubic meters, 1.4 billion cubic feet of mud overflowed from the crater lake and swept down the sides of the volcano. 100 villages were engulfed and 5,000 people were killed. Still in Java, in 1982, Galunggung came to life. Enormous pillars of ash rose 15 kilometers high, almost 10 miles. The whole area was once more covered with a thick coat of dust. 80,000 people fled. Half a meter of ash fell on Parentas, but the people stayed unharmed. With each explosion, the whole atmosphere for a radius of 15 kilometers turned black, totally saturated with volcanic ash. In less than 15 minutes, day turned into night. The time here is midday. A few hours later, the sun was back. The Indonesians cleaned the ash from their roofs so that their houses would not collapse under the weight of this mineral snow. Another danger, however, was approaching: a flow of mud. When the rainy season arrived, it was catastrophic. Torrential rain washed down the ash piled on the sides of the volcano, causing innumerable rivers of mud. Entire villages were drowned, but fortunately they were deserted as the area had been evacuated. The champions in the struggle against volcanoes are the Japanese. When a mud flow streams down a volcano and nothing is done to hold it back, it travels at 50 to 80 kilometers an hour, 30 to 50 miles an hour, and destroys any villages in its path. There have been dozens of such catastrophes in Japan, like this one at Sakurajima on Kyushu. If, however, dams are built in the valley, they break the force of the mud flow, filter it, holding back all large stones. Only the liquid part continues downhill, where it flows into channels. Destruction is minimal. Houses are saved, no one is hurt. The villages can live in peace. This is it in practice. Video cameras are automatically triggered whenever the volcano explodes, whether day or night. Infrared makes it possible to measure the temperature of an explosion. The red area is 900 degrees centigrade, the green 300. Sakurajima has between 200 and 400 explosions each year. Now and then, huge volcanic bombs hit roads and houses. The shock waves from the explosion break car windscreens and windows of houses within a 3-kilometer radius of the crater. In this hell live 12,000 Japanese. To protect themselves from flying rock, they've built dozens of shelters. There's one every 100 meters or 320 feet along their roads. It's compulsory for school children to wear helmets. The population and the authorities are ready to face the next eruption of their volcano. Whenever that may be, at least the people of Japan can feel safe against the threat posed by volcanoes. Elsewhere around the world, however, it is a different story.